If you're using AI for all your content, you're missing out on the power of your story. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the power of your story, how to remain authentic and stay on brand. Hi. So, Madeline.
Yes, David.
One of the things that we talk about a lot with clients is the power of story within their brand.
Mm-hmm.
So many times people are hesitant to actually tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
What say you?
I can see why. Well, telling your personal story is a very personal thing. So it could be because you don't want to stay in the trauma, if it's a traumatic story. And I guess if it's a story that you don't want to discuss, it probably is traumatic. And it was for me. And it wasn't that it was that traumatic, but for me, it felt as if it was too personal to share with the world. I guess my ego said, oh, everybody wants to know about you, but not really. But then, it was true. One day, Danny, our producer, said something to me that kind of stayed in the back of my mind. And I thought about it when we were relaunching our podcast, and we pivoted right on the dime that day. Said, let's start with your story. And I was like, okay, not one that I want to go there. But I realized that people only knew the Madeline now and did not know who I was. And that wasn't going to serve the clientele that I was trying to impact. And that was the pivotal moment for me. And I was able to discuss it and really share with the world and all the people that heard it. And at that time, I realized that it was a very powerful story because others saw themselves in my story. And they didn't know things about me that I didn't want to share, but then I feel good about it because then I was really, truly impacting people, which was what that was the goal. It was making an impact and help them understand or see that I am what's possible.
Yes. And I thought the responses after we did that were amazing on how people engaged with you and said, oh, I didn't know that about you. Because I think they were looking at the current you, but never really understood how the current you became the current you and
Right.
what is going to help you become the future you as well. And I think that that's kind of one of the things that's so important about telling but one story is it makes you memorable. It makes people understand that what it is that you went through. And not all stories have to be traumatic.
No.
Sometimes they're just the process that you go through, right? And there's multiple stories that people can tell, right? There's your personal story. Then there's the story about why you might have gone into business. The thing that we were saying with the opening is if you allow somebody else to say it for you or write it for you or create the words for you, is that one, it's not consistent.
Well, it's no longer your story.
Well, true. And it's because somebody else is telling it. And even if I tell your story on your behalf, it doesn't come out the same way because the emotion portion of it isn't there. And I think back when we started BNN, what was our story we were telling prospects then is that because we were in the industry, we understood what they were feeling, and we could elaborate on the experience, and we could demonstrate what it felt like when a transaction was lost and that you didn't have control over. And instead of somebody asking, if we would have gone in and said, well, here are a bunch of questions I'm going to ask you, and you're going to tell me how you feel. I want people to understand when I'm telling my story or our business story or our personal stories, I want them to be able to reflect on how that is them and how we understand. They either understand where you're coming from and relate it to you, like you said,
Mhm.
or from a business perspective, they know that you get them and you get what
Yes.
their needs are. So I think the power of a real story, instead of just letting AI or somebody else write it, is the true story comes out and it's consistent each and every time that you say it.
We are not against the AI model. You can write your story in AI and be your story and have them polish it in a way that resonates with people and what have you. That's the technique. But, as in everything, coming from you is authentic, it's real, it's emotional, it feels right. Your body language changes. You might get a tear or two, and when you're telling the story on stage from that vein, people feel it.
Yeah. And I think I think that it's interesting you say it that way about AI. I'm not opposed to using AI either. I think there's certain things it's good for.
Mhm.
And I think there's something about personal stories, personal business journeys that they're important because, like I said, they create connection,
Yes.
but they show your vulnerability. And when people show vulnerability, and this is me telling you this, which is really funny.
Ironic.
Thank you. But when you show vulnerability,
Mhm.
you're believable.
Yes. Credibility is a factor.
Yeah. And so to me, I think that's the amazing thing. And I think when you use other ways of creating your story, you lose the details.
Mm.
You lose the specifics. You may get a teary. You're going to show some form of emotion that's different than if I'm reading it from a script.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
to me, that's always the beauty of learning. And one of the things when we're interviewing people, we love to hear their story because it shows what they went through to achieve whatever level of success that they have had or whatever they're going through, right? To better understand them. And then I think people are more willing and committed to working with those people.
Well, they understand. I mean, it's like you said, from a business standpoint, for us, the likelihood, if they have two proposals in front of them and one is theory and the other one is practical, they're going to go with the people that know the practicality of what they're going through.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone if you were working with them? What should they be careful about when telling their story? What would be a pitfall if, for example, if somebody is,
Mm.
if it's, I'm trying to think of the exact words, but if they're just dumping on the negative, right?
So, trauma dumping.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, trauma dumping, disguise authenticity, obviously. Vague inspiration post, those are like the worst. No moment, no lesson, no nothing, just vague.
Mhm.
Inflated stories, those are also pitfalls that you don't want to really engage just to get the audience to, it just lacks of credibility. And outsourcing your voice. To an AI, ghostwriters, some of those things. You don't want to do that. Those would be bad.
Yeah. And I think, the keys to success is telling them where you are, where you were, right? Where you are now and where you want to be. And, I think that that's the power of really defining a good story is it's in the details of the story. And I just think that when I remember years and years ago hearing you tell your story, but you never really shared it publicly. And it was like, I always told people, I said, man, if you actually ever knew her story,
Mhm.
it would move you. And I think there's so many people that have that. I remember, we had Pam Goodwin on our show. Her story, right? was amazing, right? And I think that's one of the things is that I wanted to know more about her, but my trust in her became so,
Automatic.
yeah, it was quick. It was like, oh,
Yes. She didn't miss a beat when she
yeah,
was talking about it. You can see her emotions, her her authenticity. I know that word is played out, but let me figure something else to use. But today is authenticity. Yeah, you could feel that. You can feel when it's real.
yeah. And I think it's a person you want to partner with. It's a person you want to, and it doesn't always have to be in business, right?
Collaborations,
Collaboration, it could be,
community,
exactly.
leadership, all things. Yeah.
Well, and even just when you hear something from your neighbors, right? You hear their story, it's whether you want to be around them or not, right?
Yeah.
And so it really allows someone to truly get to know the person you are and what you value most. Because in the story of anybody, you ultimately will see what they believe in.
Yeah. Listen, I can totally appreciate the visibility thing. I, for the longest time, did not want to be on social media. I still don't, but here I am.
Yeah.
But it is egotistical of any of us to think that people are waiting for us to post the video and to be there ready to click on it. And with the algorithm now these days, you are lucky to be seen by 10 of your friends. Sometimes I don't see them.
Yeah.
It's weird. So, just do it and
Yeah.
tell the truth.
Yeah. And I think that's why, again,
Be you.
One of the reasons why we started this podcast was, when we started our business journey, social media didn't exist.
No.
And even when we started our first business on our own, I mean, it was another couple of years before it really started to come into play. I mean, I think I'd have to go back, do some math, but MySpace might have just been coming onto the world. But
I don't remember.
yeah, I think they were. But my point is that it wasn't a thing. And so, we built our businesses without that. And so we felt it was important for us to let people know who we are, how we think, what we think. Obviously, with the goal that they would trust us for information and an opportunity to work with them. But more than anything, I think that, when you make the decision to do something like this, you are showing that vulnerability because, hey, listen, we know it. I mean, we're not perfect, but we strive for excellence and we want to communicate to the best of our ability from our hearts and I think that that's what shows up. And I think that that's why we've been consistent with with what we do, because we don't change our story just to fill some other narrative. Our story is our story. And I think anybody that knows us knows that. And I mean, that was originally one of the reasons why we started this podcast was to let people inside to learn who we are. And if we were pivoting our story every other day, then to your point, we lose that authenticity, for a lack of better words.
Well, credibility for that matter.
Right. Credibility. And we lose trust. Right. And so to me, that's the number one thing, no matter what it is. You can use social media, AI to create your social media posts all day long, but you really can't let it take your story. And, it's interesting. I'm going to tie this to something else, but we've been talking about, the course I'm building and then the book that I'm coming out with. And I was working with someone on it and they were like, well, this is taking us longer. And I said, that's because I want it to be me. Because I don't ever want anybody to say, hey, in your book, and I don't even know what's in my book. I don't want somebody to say in your course, and I don't know what's in my course. I want people to know what we produce is us. And I think that everything you've written has been truly you. The articles about you are your story, albeit through an interview and somebody wrote it, but it's your story. It's our story. And I think that that's what is added to the credibility of us, the growth of our show, but also in the end, it's really building on that foundation of who we are, what we are, and what we want to be. And that to me is the key.
No, I agree. And just so we're clear, we are not known in the online space, but grassroots is our jam. And we are very well known in our community, in our corporate world, in the business world, because of who we are and what we've been able to do with the business that we did. It is new. It is very hard to bring, kind of put yourself out there if you are not used to that. Visibility is painful. Mm-hmm. But the one thing I have learned to do is embrace both sides. When you are happy and you are succeeding in one area, be able to embrace the pain of having to show up, to be able to communicate to the masses who you are, what you are, and what you stand for. It has been a learning lesson on that one, but the power of the story, it's kind of cool to be able to do that and not really worried about it, because if they're going to judge you, they're going to do it anyway. So might as well just do you.
Just do you. Good way to finish. So guys, what we wanted you to hear today is don't outsource your story. Your voice is your signature. Your vulnerability is your credibility. And when you put it all together, it is the trust that you build by keeping consistent and honest. Anything else you want to say other than?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'll say it. Let's get to work.
Oh, was I supposed to say, let's get to work?